Good evening and welcome to Final Project News. I'm Alan speaking, and as 2020 comes to an end, we look back on this year's most ridiculous headlines. Number 1, Cole Sprouse arrested at Los Angeles Black Lives Matter protests. That's kind of cool. Number 2, Monday night toilet roll fights. Sport in the age of coronavirus. These are all true headlines. Number 3, research suggests that people should wear a face mask during sex. That's not romantic. Number 4, Carol Baskins offered big money deal to star on the celebrity show I'm a Celebrity, Get Me the Hell Out of Here. And that seems suspicious. The catalyst for these ridiculous headlines has been the COVID-19 virus. Businesses and society alike have been affected for over a year, and with each passing day, motivation is harder and harder to find. Initiatives, direction, people, and goals have had to come to a halt because of the virus, and these are the main reasons behind motivation. Notice I didn't mention money, as research shows that people become unmotivated after a certain amount of money. It no longer matters to them. Additionally, the effect of cash on motivation in the age of quarantine and unemployment benefits, along with stimulus checks, is far too complex to address here. So if not money, then what?
Getting workers to perform certain tasks and staying away from bad habits is an extremely hard objective to accomplish for managers. Luckily, the reinforcement theory can be used to fix these behaviors. The reinforcement theory works by rewarding positive actions and punishing negative ones. For example, if you want to reward dogs for good behavior such as going to the bathroom outside, you may give the dog a treat. Negative reinforcement works in the opposite way. So say if the dog goes to the bathroom inside the house, you may punish it by putting it in its crate for an hour. Extinction occurs by taking away positive reinforcements when the behaviors aren't being followed. That way the behavior can become extinct. There are many different schedules for reinforcement theory. Continuous reinforcement is reinforcement that occurs every time a behavior is repeated. Intermittent reinforcement occurs according to 4 different schedules. The first is fixed interval scheduling. This happens when reinforcement occurs at a fixed amount of time. For the dog example, say the dog receives a treat every day at dinner. Fixed variable scheduling is when reinforcement occurs at variable times but on an average basis. For the dog example, say the dog receives a treat 2 times every 3 days. Ratio interval scheduling is when reinforcement occurs after a certain number of behaviors. For the dog example, say the dog receives a treat after every 5 behaviors. Ratio variable scheduling is when reinforcement occurs after a variable number of behaviors but on an average. For the dog example, say the dog receives 3 treats and 10 behaviors but on a random number of behaviors. Research has concluded that continuous reinforcement, fixed rate, and variable ratio scheduling works the best. The process of using this theory goes as follows. Number 1, identify the behavior. Number 2, measure the frequency of the behaviors. Number 3, analyze causes and consequences of the behaviors. Number 4, intervene by using reinforcement. And number 5, evaluate that intervention. For managers, you must reinforce the right behaviors and pick the right schedules. Now, here's to Wyatt for goal-setting theory.
Work can be challenging. When things get especially tough, people tend to focus their energy on specific targets they set for themselves called goals. Goal setting can be a very effective tool for energizing employees, but there are many components that go into goal setting people often overlook. Specificity of goals is extremely important. If goals are too vague, it can lead to employees not fully engaging in or even abandoning their goals. If a goal is too easy, people won't be motivated enough to make any significant difference in their behavior. However, if the goal is too difficult, they might become overwhelmed. Sometimes people just aren't fully committed to a goal. It's important to make sure that there is a conscious agreement to achieve a goal in order for it to be effective. Once that agreement is made, it is essential to provide feedback on their performance. This also gives employers the opportunity to give suggestions on how they can improve. Now to Kevin with the expectancy theory.
Right. So I will explain the expectancy/performance theory. The 3 main factors within this theory are valence, expectancy, and instrumentality. According to the University of Cambridge, valence refers to the emotional orientations people hold with respect to outcomes or rewards. Expectancy just suggests that behavior is motivated by anticipated results or consequences. Instrumentality is a belief that a person will receive a desired outcome if their performance expectation is met. Let's say you work in a restaurant. The result of your work is perceived as valuable if the tables are full and the tips are rolling in. If this is going well, you will proudly work to feed people. However, if you are having to put a heavy amount of effort in an empty restaurant just for your food to go cold and be thrown out and then have to clean everything, you're probably not going to want to do it. In the same setting, if you're a waiter and you're not getting good tips and the restaurant is very busy, it's going to be very hard for you to maintain a good attitude with the customers. You'll get them the food, but with a frown on your face, and this leads to even less tips.
Thank you, Kevin, for performance theory. On to equity theory. I believe it's important to mention that these theories all go together and can be integrated in a workplace. So equity theory is the perceived fairness that an employee has. Often this is done by money. Pay is a measurement of worth to employees. Often people become unmotivated if they have more experience but are paid less than somebody with less experience, even if they have more specialized skill. These reference, as they're called, are often a way for employees to conclude that their employers value them less than their peers, ruining the rest of their day. Another aspect of equity theory is that if the distributive nature of rewards appears to be unjustified or undercut, or the procedural system by which these decisions are made seems broken to the employee, there will be an unsatisfied need, and with it comes tension. Tension can lead to people making harsh and hasty decisions, which can lead to a broken organizational culture, or even worse, termination of the employee. Now back to Kevin for more on motivation.
So when it comes to the basics for motivation, other things you have are need satisfaction, effort and performance, and valence. To satisfy the employee's needs, you have to make everything within the workplace fair in terms of pay and benefits. These benefits need to include benefits that will also cover the employee's safety needs. Also, you have to have a strong, welcoming culture with constant mutual respect in order to meet the employee's need of belonging. It is also important to provide acknowledgement in order to give a sense of achievement to employees and satisfy their esteem needs. Lastly, you need to provide development with programs and opportunity for career growth within the company. All of these tie into an employee's effort and performance, improving both of these by giving them higher motivation to try to do well and perform the best they can to achieve their goals. Next, we have the term valence, which simply means the value individuals place on outcomes based on their needs, goals, values, and sources of motivation. It has to do with the depth of the want of an employee for extrinsic rewards like money or extra benefits, or intrinsic rewards such as acknowledgement for a job well done.
Thank you, Kev. Now it's back to me for the weather. Is this a storm coming in from the west? Oh, it's quite the storm, all right. After a long day of work, an employee comes up to you, the boss, demanding more pay. It is your job to listen to employees' needs and use logic along with past performance to determine their ability and offer solutions to their issues. By tying goal-setting theory and variance of expectancy theory together, the specific job can be altered to have more intrinsic favored goals for the specific employee. Say they are caffeine addicts like I am. Having a pot of coffee ready when they come in is something that they could look forward to. If the cash is available, then perhaps the equity theory component of raising wages is a very good way of motivating employees. Or if the cash is unavailable, lowering employee inputs can also be effective. Lastly, under reinforcement theory, continuous reinforcement is the standard advice. But in this scenario, a fixed ratio reinforcement schedule could also be used to motivate the employee to get the job done and done well because of the added benefit. This has been Final Project News. Thank you for watching.